Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hello.
This lighting okay?
I'm glad we got this to work.
Yeah, somehow.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing okay, thank you. Yeah.
Good.
Mm, It's been a long
Maybe
day.
we'll wait.
It's all good.
All good on your
So
end?
that, yeah,
Okay,
all good
cool.
here.
Maybe we'll give it a minute or two and see if people want to join in. This recording, this will be recorded as well. So,
Great.
yeah.
You've had a good
Uh,
day so far.
it's snowing here in DC. How's it in the
Nice.
UK?
Wet. Lots of rain today. It's warmed up a little bit, so
Awesome.
not enough to keep the snow going.
Yeah, it's been snowing for almost 3 days now, which is kind of nice for us.
Mm. And I can see Claire's joined. Hi, Claire. Ah.
Cool. Well, if you want to get started, do you want to introduce yourself, Gillian? So I'll just preface this too. Gillian and I met through a business course, and we've stayed in touch since frequently. I love having Gillian as support and someone to bounce ideas off of at the network, and love the work she's doing. So I thought this would be a good opportunity to chat with you. But do you want to tell people kind of what you're doing and your
Sure.
background?
Yeah, absolutely. So my background is in movement and dance, everything related to that. And 10 years ago now, I completed a movement therapy course. And now I'm sort of I'm still teaching at university at a performing arts degree course. Um, and then I am a somatic coach and movement therapist. And obviously, with the whole COVID thing, everything has shifted online. And actually, I'm finding that there's some benefits to it. So I'm finding that some people that might have not been aware of the work that that whole movement therapy world that isn't necessarily accessible to everybody has suddenly opened doors for people that normally wouldn't be it wouldn't be available to them. So that's been quite exciting. And then I'm doing a PhD looking at productivity and how movement can help with joyful productivity. So busy schedule, but it's all tied up and related around movement. Um,
That's awesome. That's great. And I'll just give everyone just a little bit about me. So I'm a positive psychology coach, and that's another thing that Jillian and I connected on. A lot of her framework with her PhD is around positive psychology, and that was what I did my master's in as well. And I work with motivated individuals who have had a dream in the back of their mind. Maybe it's something like making a meaningful career change or starting their own small business, and kind of help them get clear on that idea, go from the fear that comes up to a more confident mindset, and then pursue an action plan to kind of get the momentum going. And one of the reasons I wanted to chat with Jillian today on this is because she's a great example, I think, of someone who's pursued their passions over the years. She's been able to pursue movement therapy, something she's passionate about and aligns with her interests and values. And then she's also taken that and created different ideas. So her business, she's brought to life around movement therapy. And I just wanted to talk to Jillian about her journey and her process and what's helped her pursue her goals, what keeps you energized, what supports helped over the years, and then maybe hopefully this can help other people who I know there's a lot of us, especially now with COVID, having more time on our hands to, excuse me, think about maybe where we're at professionally isn't where we want to be, or maybe this is a good time to start that small business or go after something that we're really excited about. And hopefully, hearing different people's stories, I think will help inspire others, and she can learn from someone like Jillian and her journey. So, do kind of a series of questions, and I'll get started with the first one. So, what initially got you interested in the movement therapy industry?
So this is a weird one because I started all my life I was dancing, and then here in England when you hit 18 you do your A levels and then you need to decide what you go on to do at university, and I was really clear that I wanted to study dance at university, which I wasn't aware of that you could do at the time, but I found that you could. And as part of the application process, you need to write, sort of give them an insight of where you want to take it and why you want to study dance and what do you want to do with it. And I was like, I have no idea. Like, maybe I knew I wasn't necessarily going to be a dancer, because I knew there would be people that were better than me. Um, but I always had that nurturing side of me was always there. So I was always interested in helping people. And then I came across this thing that was called movement therapy. And I was like, oh yeah, great. I'll just stick that onto my UCAS application form. So it was that very last sentence, and then I hope that this degree will allow me to pursue a career in movement therapy, not really knowing what it was or how it worked, but it just combines movement and helping people. So I was like, yeah, tick, 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 let's just put that down. But in writing it down on that application form, it sort of lodged itself in my mind and it became the thing that I wanted to do. Not really knowing what it was. So I did my 3-year degree course, finished that, and then here in the UK you have to do an MA in movement therapy to be able to be a movement therapist. And but at the time, this is before EU laws came in, you had to be over 25 to be able to do the course. So I was only 21, so there was sort of 4 years to do something else. So I found my way into teaching and started teaching, all really clear in my mind that as soon as I would hit 25, I would be on that course. And I was on the course by the time I was 25, and then had a couple of children in between whilst I was doing the course. I was still working as a teacher, and so it took me 5 years to do my movement therapy course, which usually should only take 3. But in that process, I just met I had met 2 or 3 different cohorts of movement therapists, and that was really beautiful. And it wasn't about getting through it quickly for me, it was about just enjoying the process of being on this course and developing myself and doing the one thing that I had wanted to do for 7 years. It was at the age of 18 that it went click, so I'd been waiting to do it for 7 years. So it wasn't that it took me 5 years to do the course. That didn't matter in the end. It was just that thing of, I'm doing what I've always said I wanted to do. So that's how it happened. And at the time I got to the end of my movement therapy course, and I was like, yeah, I've learned a huge amount of skills, but I want to use these skills in my teaching. I could see how it linked really nicely into my teaching and my movement practice. So it sort of went on the back burner, that proper movement therapy side of things. And then it's only been in the last 3-4 years that I've felt called to really pursue it again. So that was my movement therapy story.
I love it. So is something, I know we talked about this before, but dancing and moving, is that something that's been a part of your life even before you're 18, just growing
Yeah,
up?
definitely. It always moving. And I started dancing and moving when I was really small. I was very fortunate to have parents that encouraged me to, go to movement classes and dance classes. And by the time I think I was 14, I was probably dancing more than I was at school. Um, so, and the times that really struck me, and the times where I was the most upset and down, were the times when I had injuries and couldn't move. So that link between being able to move and feeling well and balanced and healthy and motivated just became really apparent to me at quite a young age. You know, just because I knew that if I can't move and I can't dance, that, you know, that felt really weighty to me.
Mhm. Yeah, that makes sense. So why would you say this work is so meaningful for you now? So you said in the last 3 or 4 years, you kind of shifted into bringing that
Yeah.
movement therapy certification back into the picture. So why does that feel meaningful for you?
Firstly, because obviously it's all related to movement. So that's one part that's
Yeah.
meaningful. And then I think it's that as I've got older, just being really clear about what I feel my purpose is in the world right now. And that purpose for me is just being able to spread joy. And my way of doing that is through movement therapy. You know, I can create a ripple effect of joy by engaging with just one person and allowing them that space, that non-judgmental space, to become more aware of who they are, shift and change certain patterns that they might have, allowing them to feel more joyful, and in that process the people around them picking that joyfulness up and spreading it on and on and on and on. So that, to me, at the moment, that feels like what my purpose is right now. And it, you know, that's why the whole movement therapy side of things is meaningful to me.
Yeah, that's great. I love it. So, why has it been so important to do this academic work and then to create your own business program, kind of out of what you've been studying and learning over the years?
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because I was thinking about sort of what is it there? And for me, I think there's something about creating something. We're all creative beings at the end of the day. We all create something in some shape or form. There is that inner urge, and I can see all my students are watching me. Hi,
Oh
Reese. Hi,
yeah.
Josh.
Oh,
And we, you know, I know that they know that I say this all the time. We have that inner urge to create. And for me, creating some, you know, yes, I could create a choreography and it would be
mhm,
fine. Um, but I've always had that other side of me, that academic side that likes to research and that likes to know the numbers and sort of the more black and white side of things, and like to know why things work. And
yeah.
so pursuing my PhD has just enabled me to combine that creative side and the academic side with one another, and creating something that's that's that I've not copied from anybody else, but it's, you know, it may be that someone else has thought of it and that someone else is doing it, but they're not doing it like I do it. They do it in a different way. And there's something really nice about giving birth to
Yeah.
a framework and a structure that I do, that I use, and that works for me in my practice, and
Mhm.
that I've sort of built up, and I understand why it works. You know, rather than just being taught a framework and you going, oh yeah, that's a nice framework, great. Thank you, Casey. Thank you, support from the students. Um, so it's about creating something that I know why it is the way it is and why it works,
Mhm.
and spreading the joy with that, really.
Yeah. Yeah, I was gonna, that something that came to mind was there when you were talking about that. Was there a point where this idea kind of came to you or it started, nagging at you? Okay, I think I want to create a business or a framework or something out of all this knowledge that I have. Like, did
Well,
that?
it's funny that you say that, because when I did my first degree, listen, degree students that are on the call right now, when I was on my first degree, I got to my third year where you get to write your dissertation. And
Mhm.
I was so excited. I was like, wow, great. I get to make up my own ideas after having spent 2 years having to follow someone else's ideas. And then I got to my supervisions, and the degree supervisors were like, no, Gillian, you can't have your own ideas, I'm afraid. You have to still quote everybody else. um, and I was like, oh no, really? So, I had these ideas in mind already then about merging business and movement, and, looking at motivation of workers. And but I wasn't allowed to express any of those ideas in my first degree. So then I came on to my MA, and I thought, oh, great, finally I can just express myself and have my own ideas. And again, he said, no, Gillian, you need to quote everybody else. Now I'm doing my PhD, and finally I can just be myself and do what I think will work. And then, yes, still look at the literature and the gaps in the literature, but finally
Mhm.
I can sort of create my own framework.
Right. And what's helped you with your confidence to pursue your goals, or
Mm.
some of those ideas that you're kind of bringing to life? Like you mentioned birthing, like birthing these ideas. What gives you that,
Yeah,
giving
the
you that
conf-
confidence to do that?
I think time and seeing. I think I've been incredibly persistent with my goals. So I've set them, and they've always been my guides, my focus point. And of course, there've always been goals where that aren't true goals, or they don't fully align, and those are the goals that then appear. The goals that you set yourself, that you then they don't just disappear. They're there no matter what, no matter whether it gets difficult, or they're just there. And those are the goals that helped me just
Mhm.
it's that idea of chipping away at the path, taking one step at a time. If you think of climbing a ladder, taking one tiny step at a time to climb the ladder to get to where you want to go. And I suppose then that learning process, or finding that pattern of, oh, I set myself the goal and then I achieve it,
Mhm.
it's such a great experience that, oh, well, not only is it a goal, but it's a really, really special goal for yourself. Oh, if I set myself a new goal, maybe I can achieve that too. And oh, maybe I can push it a little bit further and I can achieve that too. So I think it's been a bit of that process, and um, being persistent with it, and not just going in one direction and then completely changing direction because it doesn't work straight away. I mean, there have been lots of hurdles along the way, and I've been able to navigate those, and not lose sight of the things that matter, I suppose, to me. Maybe not to anybody else, but they matter to me. um, and yeah, just that persistence,
Yeah.
determination, persistence, and the motivation will come and it will go,
Mhm.
um, depending on what's going on. But as long as you're just you know chipping away at it, it will happen one day.
Yeah. I like that, the
Yeah.
persistence and chipping away, kind of slowly showing up.
Yeah.
Don't want to.
Yeah,
So
and
you mentioned,
that thing of it not having to be there instantly. Just because you've got the idea in your mind doesn't mean it has to be there straight away.
right.
It, yeah, I
Right.
think.
And you mentioned some of the obstacles that like, what are some of the fears that came up for you initially when you were thinking about pursuing some of these things? And how did you kind of get around those
I
fears?
think so. Some of the fear. I mean, that are you good enough always comes up, doesn't it? Am
Yeah.
I good enough to do this? And is what I produce good enough? And is what I create good enough? And I think to overcome that good enough thing, For me, it was just always, I'll just get on and do it. Just do it. And Richard Branson has written that book, hasn't he? Just do it. And take the risk. My partner always says, just take risks that he would never take. But it's in that risk taking, and not being afraid of getting it wrong. There's no such thing as right or wrong. You make the decision, and then things happen. And unless you make the decision, nothing will happen. So it's rather than being stuck, it's just keep moving, just keep dancing, and whatever then happens, you can then work with that. And if you just stuck on the other side of the decision making process, I think it's, where do you then go? You're just stuck there.
Right. Yeah, and I feel like that goes back to the confidence thing, with continuing to just take little small action steps will likely help with that, getting unstuck. I think a lot of people tend to get stuck too in that very early on stage when it feels really big, maybe unattainable, not knowing where to start. So I like that, just kind of taking persistent steps.
The smaller the steps, the easier it is.
Yeah. So what support has helped you over the years then? Like what do you kind of define as your support network or support safety net that keeps you kind of moving forward when you have obstacles or these, mindset fears that come up?
Yeah, I mean, I'm very fortunate that I have, incredibly supportive people around me. My parents, my partner just allows me to, have my wacky ideas and get on with things. But then, there are layers of support. It is about creating that support network for you, and creating a network where you can ask for help, and not being afraid of asking for help. I think that was one of the big learning things I had in my 20s, that, actually, I can't do this all by myself. I had 2 small children at the time. I was doing my MA. I had a business. I was teaching. I needed help, and I had to just surrender to that and go, okay, I just need to ask for some help here. Who can I ask? And I learned at that time how important it is to build a support network around you, and that can have many different forms. So for me, at that point in time, actually, I was doing my movement therapy course, and so people on that course became my support network. The group therapy sessions that we had as part of that course became my support network. The therapist that I had to see on a weekly basis became my support network. And then, and now where I'm doing my PhD, and so my supervision team become my support network. So I think support can look, very different. It doesn't have to be that the person right next to you. It can be someone that you see on a bi-weekly basis. Like I see you on a 2-weekly basis, and you are part of, in a way, you're part of my support network. So yeah, I'm being quite conscious about building that. I think is really important. Because building a business can be really lonely, if you're doing it by yourself. Whatever you do can be, especially right now, can be super lonely. So just having very deliberate actions where you're like, okay, who can I call in different circumstances? Find that super important.
Yeah, and I like that you mentioned you can have support in different forms, different places. And are there people that you kind of suss out, like, oh, this is somebody that might be more supportive of ideas that are, as you said, wacky? Or, I mean, how do you kind of navigate when you do get feedback from people who are in your life that are supportive, but maybe when you do mention an idea or something where you need that encouragement and positive feedback, and that I find that for me, I've had to navigate around who is going to give me that and feed that idea for
Mm.
me and that momentum. And is that something that you've had to sort through as well?
Um, at times, I think I think I'll have to deal with it more and more over the next couple of years, where I'm sort of trying to bring my ideas into the business world, which I think might there might be some. I'm expecting there might be some resistance there. I might be totally wrong, but that I think if you've got a support network around you that know what you do and love what you do, it's then much easier to approach people that are maybe, that may need to be convinced that what you're doing is a good idea. So I suppose, again, to get your strategy right, that you're be kind to yourself, I think, with any of this. Don't put yourself in situations where that isn't my audience, or they might tear me to pieces. Why take that risk that far? Create that support system whereby okay, I've sort of expanded it that little bit further, and then let's expand it a little bit more. And just over the last couple of years, the amount of people I've met online that actually do really resonate with the stuff that I'm doing, it's like, okay, so I've got these people now behind me and I feel secure. I know that what I'm doing, so there are a couple of people out there that like what I'm doing, so maybe it's okay to venture out into an area that feels a bit more risky. Yeah.
That's a great point. I love that. And so, do you have any advice for people at the beginning stages? So, I know you mentioned a few years ago this idea sparked for you, where you knew you wanted to do a business. And what kind of helped you in that beginning stage? Like, what advice would you give to other people who are looking to, that idea comes to mind and they're really excited about it, and then it's like, where do I get started? How do I get started? What do I do next?
I think with the sort of that initial point where the idea starts, I think one of the keys is to work out, is this just a quick, oh, I'd like to do that, like a whim, or actually does my core deep down need this, want this, is this what I'm here to do? Because I do think that if it's a whim, once the motivation will always go up and down, and if you're at the point where the motivation dwindles, that's then the point where it can be really difficult to continue on with that work. So I think making sure that whatever you put your mind to, why you're doing it, and whether it resonates with you, whether it's aligned with you. We talk about these things, and but when it feels right. It's that, just that your heart goes click and it's all in place and it feels right, and it's that, okay, this is the journey, and seeing it as a journey. So for me, yes, I have my goals in mind, and there's that idea of, oh, if I reach that goal I will then be happy. But actually for me, it's the journey. As I'm on this journey, the journey and the process is the important bit. And if I'm not happy on the journey and in this process, well, what's the point? Just hitting a big goal that I may or may not reach, and being unhappy in the process, that just feels all wrong. And that's the truth of the matter. That goal, yes, you've set it for yourself, but you may not reach it. So I'd rather focus on, yes, that's the goal where I ultimately want to go to, but in the process I have to be happy and I have to enjoy myself. And yeah, so people that are starting out, I would say, if you're worrying, just try and let that go, because you need to enjoy the journey, and everything is a process and everything is a learning process. And oh my goodness, how many times you can go over things again and again and again, and each time you will see something different and alter it and change it and shift it. and you will learn, you know. So I think seeing anything as a learning process is really, really important, rather than I'm doing it right or I'm doing it wrong and oh gosh, this is a disaster. um, Having what I like using the phrase curious playfulness, you know,
Yeah,
being playful and curious and just allowing yourself to explore.
yeah. I think that's great. So, what are some of the projects that you're most excited about that you're working on right now?
Oh, gosh, there's so many. Well, seeing that my students are here, I'll just have to mention, you know, we're doing a lot of online teaching at the moment. So that's one of my projects that I'm doing, working with them, and making sure they're all happy and keeping on with the process, you know, keep the process flowing rather than just stopping because we're locked down. And then for my business side of things, I've got a couple of things going on. So I've got a nice little closed Facebook group that I provide 15-minute sessions for people twice a week during the week whilst we're in lockdown. So we just come together at 4:30 on a Mondays and 12:30 on a Wednesdays. That's UK time. And we have a 15-minute movement meditation together and move and shift. You know, I'm a true believer of how we move has an impact on how we feel. So by shifting the way we move, we can shift the way we feel. So we do that. Then once a month, I'm offering Ground Yourself workshops, which are really beautiful. They just get people to check back in with their bodies. It's really easy at the moment to be quite disconnected from not just the outside world, but ourselves as well. Even though we're spending a lot of time with ourselves, it's really easy to be disconnected. So finding a way to connect back to our bodies, back to the ground, and just sharing that with a group of people. And then that then leads into a group program that I'm offering at the moment, that will be starting next week. So yeah, there's lots going on.
So, what are the main, what do you mainly see with people in that? Because I know I've gone to a few of the 15-minute and they're great. You know, if I'm working and just get up, hop on with your group call, we move around, and then it's short, sweet, you get right back to work. And what are you noticing with people with that shift? Because I know so many people are working from home now, and I know that your focus has always been, or a lot of it has been with people in the workplace, and now the workplace is at home. And so,
Mhm.
you know, has its own challenges. Some people I know have been working at home before the pandemic, but now some people, this is new for them or the new normal. And so what are you seeing, like the benefits with people with just those short movement exercises?
Yeah, I think the main thing is going for just space, isn't it? Space is really interesting at the moment. We're not allowed to go outside and we're having to stay in one space. And so that relationship to space is really interesting. And I think what these 15 minutes do is allow ourselves to connect with ourselves, but then expand the space within us. So that then can be filled, you know, and once you create space, it is then automatically filled. That's just what happens with space. So whether that's then filled with creativity or joy or, you know, whatever it is, but that expansion of space is definitely one that people have really been noticing and appreciating. Just that, oh gosh, you know, I've not got much space to move in, but actually at the end of the meditation, the movement meditation and the movements, it didn't matter that there wasn't that physical space, because the space was all internal, and more space was created within ourselves to think, to feel, to, you know, connect. So that's a big one. And then that shift from I notice it myself, you know, on the Mondays I'm teaching online most of the day, and so I've deliberately placed it at 4:30 in the evening so that I can join in too. And you know, the head, when we're we're constantly on our computers and working. We're just in our heads most of the time. We hardly move. And so it's shifting this buzzing that's going on that can sometimes be quite painful, just shifting that energy that's all up here down into our bodies and shifting it into a different place and just balancing everything out again. And then with that, you know, that focus comes back, the clarity comes back, easier to make decisions. Yeah, so, you know, focus, energy, clarity are the three things I think that people just find at the end. And
So not only you're saying, because I know a lot of people think of movement, um, and especially because of my background's, you know, being an athlete for a long time. So my perspective on movement was always for exercise or training, and I love that you introduced, you know, free movement or moving your body and letting it express itself so that, you know, it can help your well-being. And from what you've said, I mean, how is it helping people directly with just their work? You know, if the people take that 10-minute break and then come back to a project or whatever they're working on.
yeah, I've had a couple of people that, you know, they come into the session and they're like all cramped up and they're all in their head and they're like, Gillian, I've been trying to solve this problem all morning and it's just not happening. And we do the 15-minute sessions, and because we're moving, you know, again, it's that idea of how we move is how we feel, and how we move is all connected to how we think. And we come out of the 15 minutes and they're like, oh, it's just come to me. I know the answer now. I know what I need to do. I know what I need to do differently. So that's really beautiful. You know, those moments happen frequently, just that, again, creating that space, and then the thoughts flow and the creativity flows. Yeah, and then we can be joyfully productive and moving from, oh, I'm tense and I feel, you know, feel stressed and to, I mean, last Monday was beautiful. I think I put it on my Instagram because everybody, I turned back to my computer screen and there were all the Zoom pictures, everybody with a massive smile on their face. This is why I do this, because everybody was just so happy by the end of it, you know, and that's then taken on into their work, and that whole idea of joyful productivity, you know, and the ripple effect, it then just happens.
Right. And what would your definition of joyful productivity be?
It's about being creative and productive, but with a sense of joy and ease, I suppose is the word. You know, that you don't feel pressured to produce something, to create something. You know, there come some people come to me and they feel that pressure, and it all just feels tight and bound and difficult. And again, it's about the process, isn't it? That if you approach things with ease, then it's much easier to feel joyful, because joy isn't in that pressuredness, it's in the that's where joy is. So that's what joyful productive to me is, for me, that ease, to produce and be productive and have the feeling of you know, doing something either for others or for yourself, whatever it is, but that you're doing and creating something in a joyful manner.
Yes, that's great. Yeah, and I mean, I think for someone like myself, I know that I've always been someone that needs to be moving, and it's hard for me to sit still and then the whole working at home. And so I know the suggestions you've given me have been super helpful, just with getting up, moving for 10 minutes, or you know, just kind of getting out of your head for a little bit and then coming back to your work or whatever you're doing. And so, yeah, I think that's great. And so you mentioned you are running the free Headspace workshops through lockdown, so people can join if they want to. It's till
They
March
want
8th,
to,
I think. 8th. you said?
Yeah, well,
Okay.
we don't know. We don't know at the moment.
No,
At the moment, March 8th, but who knows what's happening. So,
right.
yeah, I've got a closed Facebook group which you can find through my Instagram link. More than welcome to join. It is a closed group, but you will be admitted if you join. And yeah, so I just good easy way to communicate when those 15-minute sessions are happening. And then my next Ground Yourself workshop is at the end of the month. So that's a 1 hour session just to really connect with your body, and giving you some tools of how you can ground yourself at these times, really, you know, sort of very practical tools, like you've used them, you know, but they're tools specifically for yourself. So you know, it's not a yoga session where I'm telling you to go into this position and then in this position because that's really good for you. No, 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 it's much more this is your body. How does your body want to move? What does it need to do to feel the best it can? Why is it avoiding certain things? You know, why is it doing other things? What's it trying to tell you with that niggle in the shoulder, for example? So we look at all that and find a way for you to move that feels like you're connecting with yourself.
Right. Yes, that's great. So thank you so much, Gillian. I'm hoping that I'll
Thank you.
continue doing some of these interviews and learning about people's stories and how they're, you know, pursuing their passions. And Gillian's such a great example of, I think, someone who pursues them joyfully and with fun and playfulness, but also that determined research side as well. So, yeah, thank you so much for sharing your story.
Thank you
And
so much for having me.
yeah, and if anyone has any more questions, I think anyone could benefit from movement therapy, or, you know, just if you have any questions about that, I'm sure Jillian would be happy to connect. So,
Yeah.
yes, thank you so much. It was fun.
Thank you. Take care.
Okay, bye.
Bye.